The first glimpse. The chamber of the Galactic High Council was silent. That silence was not normal. This was the place where hundreds of voices usually clashed, where senators and rulers of many worlds argued until the walls shook. But now every alien in the hall stared at a single screen, their eyes wide with fear. On the screen floated an image, grainy but sharp enough to break the pride of the Empire. A lone ship, black and silver, shaped like a blade drifting through stars. The report said the ship was human, and that alone was enough to cause whispers. Humans were young in the galaxy, barely known, barely respected. How could such a race create this? Counselor Varash, a scaled being with burning yellow eyes, slammed his clawed hand on the desk. "This is false," he growled, his voice echoing. "Humanity does not have the knowledge for such things. This is trickery, lies." But the evidence spoke against him. The human ship had been seen by 3 Imperial scouts. 2 never returned. The third limped back with damaged engines, its crew broken with terror. Their report shook the Empire. They said the human ship moved faster than any drive ever built, it appeared, and vanished as if space itself bent around it. Another counselor, old and frail, leaned forward. Her voice was quiet, but it carried weight. "If the humans can build such a ship, then everything we know is wrong. Our science, our fleets, our future." The chamber filled with hissing breaths, clicking tongues and shivering wings. Different species, different shapes, yet the same fear. The Empire had ruled. For 10,000 years, its technology unmatched, its fleets unstoppable. But now a shadow of doubt spread through every mind. At the far end of the chamber, the Emperor rose, tall, robed in gold, his face unreadable. He looked at the screen, at the human ship. He did not speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "Summon the scientists. Summon the generals, I want answers." And so the first investigation began. Pieces of wreckage were brought from the scout ships that clashed with the human vessel. When Imperial scientists touched the fragments, their faces grew pale. The metal was not metal, not in any way they understood. It bent light strangely. It hummed like a living thing. Energy readings went off every scale. One scientist whispered, "This cannot exist, not in this universe." Word spread like fire through the Empire. Soldiers, merchants, slaves, and nobles all heard the rumor. The humans had built something impossible. And if one ship could humiliate the Empire's scouts, what would a fleet of them do? Back in the council chamber, fear turned into anger. Counselor Varash shouted again, "We must crush them before they grow stronger. Humanity must be destroyed before this spreads." Others shook their heads, their voices trembling. "No, attacking may reveal more of their secrets. What if they have hundreds of these ships? What if this is only the beginning?" The Emperor raised his hand, and silence fell once more. He looked at his council, then at the great galaxy map. Glowing before them, a small blue dot marked Earth, so tiny compared to the stars of the Empire. Yet that dot now held the power to shake them all. The Emperor's voice was calm, but everyone felt the weight of it. "Send spies. Send envoys. Find out how humans achieved this. We will not act blindly. But remember this. If they can do the impossible, then the galaxy itself may change forever." The chamber emptied slowly, yet the fear remained. Every counselor, every soldier, every citizen who heard the whispers would remember this day. The day they first glimpsed human technology. The day the Empire realized that the impossible was no longer impossible. The Empire's fear. The void of space near the border of Imperial territory shimmered. Out of the darkness something appeared, something no Imperial sensor could fully understand. A human ship, larger than the one from the first report, slid into real space, its surface glowing with impossible energy. The Imperial fleet stationed nearby rushed to intercept. Dozens of destroyers, swift and sharp, engines roaring, weapons armed. Admiral Sarah, commander of the fleet, leaned forward in his command chair, his scales trembling despite his training. "Keep distance," he ordered. "Observe before striking. I want to see how it moves." The human ship did not move like any ship should. One moment it was far. The next moment it was closer, without using any warp corridor, without leaving any energy trail. Sensors screamed in confusion. Data streams turned into nonsense. Impossible, whispered one officer. It is breaking the rules of space. The Empire had always believed itself untouchable. Its fleets were the hammer of the galaxy, crushing any who resisted. But now, for the first time in centuries, fear touched every soldier in that fleet, because they were staring at something their minds could not explain. The human ship suddenly sent a signal. It was not a threat, not a demand, only a simple message. A voice spoke, calm and clear. This is not your space. This is ours now. The words echoed in every Imperial channel. Shock silenced the bridge of Admiral Sarok's flagship. How could a young species barely a few centuries into the stars speak with such confidence? And yet, the tone carried no arrogance, only certainty, like a mountain telling a river where to flow. The Admiral swallowed hard. He could feel the eyes of his officers waiting for him to act. He raised his hand slowly and whispered, "Open fire." Beams of energy, missiles of plasma. The pride of the Empire's navy lit the void. The human ship should have broken apart, should have burned. Instead, it flickered, like a shadow underwater. The weapons passed through it, striking nothing. Then the ship moved. Not fast, not slow, but strange. One moment it was there, the next it was behind the fleet. And then destruction began, without visible weapons, without missiles. The human ship released waves of light. Imperial cruisers melted as if their hulls were made of wax under a burning sun. Entire squadrons vanished in seconds, their signals blinking out one after another. Admiral Sarok gripped his chair, his eyes wide. This cannot be, he gasped. But it was. The humans had turned impossible into real. By the time the human ship faded back into the void, the once mighty fleet was broken, half of it gone, the rest damaged, limping back to the nearest base. The Empire had lost more ships in that 1 hour than in the last 100 years of war combined. The survivors returned to the capital, and their stories spread like disease. Soldiers whispered of ghosts, of ships that were not ships, of weapons that killed without fire. Civilians heard rumors that the humans had mastered powers forbidden even to gods. And everywhere across the Empire, fear grew. The High Council met again, their faces pale, their voices trembling. Councillor Varash, who once demanded human destruction, now spoke softer. If we fight them, we die. If we ignore them, they grow stronger. What choice do we have? The Emperor sat silent, listening, his golden eyes. Unreadable, he finally said. The humans have shown us something greater than power. They have shown us horror, a horror born not of cruelty, but of knowledge we cannot reach. He looked at the map again, at that small blue world called Earth. The galaxy itself may bow before them, unless we find a way to stop them. But deep inside, even the Emperor knew, stopping them might no longer be possible, and in the shadows whispers spread among the counselors. Some believed the humans were not alone, that something older, something hidden had given them this power. And if that was true, then the Empire was not just facing humanity, it was facing whatever stood behind them. The fear of the Empire was no longer just about ships or weapons, it was the fear of the unknown, and the unknown now wore the face of humanity. Breaking the laws deep within the Imperial capital, a secret laboratory hummed with energy. Here, the Empire's brightest scientists worked under the Emperor's direct command. On their tables lay fragments of the human ship, twisted shards, gathered from battle wreckage. At first glance, they looked like simple metal, dull and harmless. But when the researchers touched them, the fragments sang with a strange vibration, almost alive. Dr. Krial, the head scientist, tapped one shard with a scanner. The device shattered instantly, sparks flying. Another machine overloaded, burning its circuits before even completing a reading. The scientists stared at each other in disbelief. "This is not possible," one whispered. "Matter should not behave like this. Energy should not flow this way." Days turned into weeks, yet the mystery only deepened. The fragments bent gravity, bending time itself. One moment they weighed nothing, floating gently in the air. The next they crashed down with the weight of a planet, cracking the reinforced floor. No known science could explain this. The laws of physics were being mocked by human design. Word of these findings spread through the highest levels of the empire. Generals paced nervously. Engineers shook their heads in shame. If the humans truly mastered this technology, then no weapon, no fortress, no empire could stand against them. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, whispers grew among the common people. Merchants claimed they saw human devices heal wounds instantly. Smugglers swore that human machines could hide entire ships from sensors. Sailors told stories of human weapons that fired without heat, sound, or recoil. To many, these were only rumors, but the fear made them real. Back in the lab, Dr. Creole discovered something that chilled him to his core. He had broken open one fragment, peeling it apart layer by layer. Inside, there was no circuitry, no wires, no crystal cores, only emptiness. Yet that emptiness glowed with infinite light. He staggered back, whispering, "This is not technology. This is something else." The Emperor demanded answers. "Doctor," Creole stood before the throne, shaking. "My lord, we cannot explain it. This is not invention, it is discovery. The humans have found a way to use what lies outside our laws." The council erupted in chaos. Some shouted that the humans must be destroyed at once. Others argued that such power could never be beaten. One trembling counselor whispered, "Perhaps the humans did not build this. Perhaps they uncovered it. Something ancient, something hidden." Those words spread faster than fire. If humanity had unlocked a secret older than the Empire, then the balance of the galaxy itself was broken. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed, his voice low. "Find the truth. Find the source. If the humans have found the door to the impossible, then we must see what lies beyond it." But while the Empire searched for answers, humanity was already moving. Scouts reported human fleets growing larger, building stations in silence. Worlds once ignored by the galaxy now glowed with strange energy. Alien spies who tried to sneak near Earth never returned, and those who did returned broken, whispering only one thing. They see us, even when we are invisible. The Empire's pride was cracking. For centuries it had been the master of order, the keeper of laws. But now those laws were breaking in human hands, and with every day, the impossible became real. The galaxy began to ask itself a terrifying question. If humanity could break the laws of science, what laws would they break next? The laws of war, the laws of power, even the laws of life and death. What if nothing was beyond their reach? The test of fire, the Emperor's command, was clear. The time for whispers is over. We will test them in fire. The Empire gathered its proudest fleet at the edge of human-claimed space. Hundreds of warships shining like blades, engines roaring like thunder. It was not just an army, it was a message. The Empire would not bow to fear. Admiral Serok, scarred from his last encounter, stood once more at the front. He had begged to be released from command, but the Emperor refused. "You have seen them before. You will face them again," the Emperor had said. Now Serok stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring into the void. Every sensor, every gun, every soldier waited. At first the void was empty. Then the stars seemed to bend, and there it was. One human cruiser, just one. Compared to the Empire's armada, it looked small, fragile, unworthy of fear. Yet every soldier who had heard the stories felt their hearts race. "Lock weapons," Serok ordered, his voice trembling despite himself. "We strike at my command." The human ship did not move. It drifted quietly, its surface glowing with faint blue light. No shields detected, no weapons charged. It looked defenseless. That made the Empire hesitate. Was it a trap, or were the humans mocking them? Finally, Serok shouted, "Fire!" The sky lit up with energy beams, plasma missiles, rail cannon fire, the combined strength of 1,000 worlds unleashed in one breath. For a moment, victory seemed certain. But then the beams twisted, the missiles curved, the shells dissolved. Every weapon bent away from the human ship as if the universe itself protected it. The crew gasped, their screens filled with impossible readings. "It's not shielding," one officer cried. It's rewriting the laws around it." Before panic could spread further, the human ship finally moved, not fast, not violent, but inevitable. It blinked forward, closer, then closer again. Every Imperial ship tried to retreat, but space itself betrayed them. Engines roared, but no distance closed. They were trapped in a cage they could not see. Then the human ship attacked. No fire, no sound, no heat, just light, soft and white. Where the light touched, Imperial ships collapsed. Armor turned liquid. Hulls folded like paper. Entire battleships crumbled silently, disappearing into nothing. Serok stood frozen, his claws digging into the chair. "What are they?" he whispered. "What have they become?" Within minutes, half the fleet was gone, the rest scattered, breaking formation, fleeing into the stars. Only Serok's flagship remained. Engines failing, hull cracked. He stared at the screen as the human ship drifted closer. And then, across the void, a voice came, calm and terrible. This was not war. This was warning. Leave us, or the impossible will follow you home. Voice ended, and the ship vanished. Not into warp, not into hyperspace, but into silence. No trace left, as if it had never been. The broken fleet limped back to the capital. The story spread like a storm across the galaxy. The humans had not only defeated the Empire's pride, they had humiliated it in taverns. Soldiers whispered of a light that erased entire worlds. In palaces, nobles locked their doors, fearing that humanity might already be inside. And in the High Council, fear finally broke into despair. If one ship could destroy an armada, what would a fleet do? What if Earth itself was a weapon? The Emperor listened to their cries, his face still calm. But deep inside, even he knew the truth. The age of the Empire was ending. The age of the impossible had begun. The secret revealed the prison chamber beneath the Imperial capital was carved from black stone. No prisoner had ever left it alive. But tonight, a different kind of prisoner sat inside. A human, captured after a raid near the border. He was not tall, not armored, not glowing with power. He looked ordinary, dressed in simple gray, his eyes calm, almost gentle. The guards watched him closely, their claws on weapons, their voices hushed. For even without chains, the human sat as if nothing could touch him. Counselor Varash entered first, his scales dark with anger. Behind him came Dr. Krial, trembling with notes and scanners. And at last, the Emperor himself stepped into the chamber. The air grew heavy. Every guard straightened. This was not a simple interrogation. This was a moment that could decide the fate of empires. The Emperor spoke, his voice sharp. "You will tell us how your kind built these ships, how you twist the laws of our universe." The human lifted his eyes slowly, his voice soft. "We did not build them. We uncovered them." The chamber shook with whispers. Varash hissed, "Lies, no race uncovers such power." But the human smiled faintly. "You cling to rules, to boundaries. To cages you built for yourself, we broke the cages, that is all." Dr. Krial stepped forward, his scanners humming. "Your fragments contain energy without source, matter without form. They defy every equation. How?" The human leaned back, his gaze far away. "You think the universe is fixed, that it has one set of laws, but we learned it is not. It is layered, endless, each layer with rules of its own. For centuries you lived in one layer, and so did we. But then, we asked a question you never dared ask. What lies beyond?" The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "And what did you find?" The human's voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "A door, and behind it, silence. And in that silence we found power." The guards shivered, though they did not understand. Varash slammed his claw against the stone. "You open something you do not control. You endanger the galaxy." The human looked at him calmly. "The galaxy was never safe, it only thought it was, now it will face truth." Dr. Krial scribbled furiously, his mind torn between fear and awe. If the humans truly walked between layers of reality, then nothing could stop them. Not fleets, not science, not even time. The Emperor leaned closer, his voice almost soft. And what do you want with such power? The human's answer chilled everyone in the chamber. We do not want your thrones. We do not want your worlds. We want only freedom. But if you try to take it from us, then you will see what lies on the other side of the door. A silence heavier than war filled the room. The emperor stood straight, his face unreadable. He turned to his counselors and scientists. His words, sharp. Release him, Varash gasped. The guards froze. My lord, he is dangerous. But the emperor's golden eyes glowed. No, he is not dangerous. His people are, and if this man is harmed, they will come. And none of us will live. To tell the tale, the guards unlocked the chains. The human rose slowly, stretching his arms. Before leaving, he turned once more, his eyes meeting the emperor's. You have looked into the abyss. Now it looks back at you. He walked out calmly, as if the empire itself were only a hallway. To cross that night, whispers spread again. Not of battles, not of fleets, but of a single human prisoner who spoke of doors beyond the universe. And for the first time, even the emperor felt a shiver of dread. For he knew now, the humans were not just building weapons, collapse of the old order. The empire's capital had always stood as a symbol of order. Towers of crystal stretched into the sky. Fleets soared above. Banners of gold and crimson waved over every street. But now, that order was crumbling. Fear was spreading faster than fire. News of the failed battles against humanity could no longer be contained. Soldiers whispered. In taverns, merchants traded rumors. Slaves passed secret words through the night. Everywhere the same question burned. How could humans do the impossible? And if even the emperor could not stop them, who could? In the High Council, chaos ruled. Once united voices now fought like wild beasts. Counselor Varash demanded war, slamming his claws against the table. We cannot bow. We must strike harder, bigger, crush them before their roots spread. Others shouted back, their voices shaking. Strike harder, with what? Our fleets are broken, our weapons fail against them. Every battle brings only shame. They will destroy us if we fight. They will destroy us if we wait. The chamber became a storm of fear and anger. The emperor sat silent on his throne. His golden eyes moved slowly across the counselors, watching them crumble. For centuries he had ruled with iron grip. But now, even he felt the cracks spreading. Outside the chamber, the cracks were worse. Worlds began to question imperial rule. Some governors refused to send ships, saying their fleets were needed for local defense. Some whispered to humanity in secret, sending hidden messages through shadow channels. And some worlds simply fell silent, cutting ties with the capital. For the first time in 10,000 years, the empire was breaking apart, not by invasion, but by fear. In the palace halls, generals argued. Admiral Sarok stood weary, his scales dulled by defeat. He spoke softly to the others. We cannot fight them with ships. We cannot fight them with guns. We must understand them, or we are already lost. But the younger generals shouted him down. No, if we understand them, we only feed our fear. Better to strike and die than kneel like cowards. In the shadows, plots grew. Assassins moved through the night, killing voices that called for peace. Nobles bribed commanders to abandon posts. Spies whispered of whole sectors ready to rebel. The empire was bleeding from within. Meanwhile, humanity watched in silence. They did not attack again. They did not invade. Their fleets hovered at the edge of stars, quiet, patient, like hunters, waiting for prey to break itself. On the capital streets, riots broke out. Citizens demanded answers, demanded safety, demanded hope. The guards struck them down, but more rose, and in every cry one word echoed. Humans. Dr. Krial returned from his studies with a report that chilled even the emperor. My lord, their technology is spreading. Copies of their fragments are appearing across the galaxy. Black markets trade them at impossible prices. Smugglers risk death to carry even dust of human machines. If this continues, the empire will lose its monopoly on power. The emperor rose slowly, his robes heavy with age. We are not losing our monopoly, he said, his voice like stone. We have already lost it. The council fell silent. Even Varash could not speak, for the truth was now undeniable. Across the stars, alien races who once bowed to the Empire were making choices. Some fled to humanity, begging for protection. Some began building secret alliances, hoping to survive when the Empire fell, and some sharpened their knives, preparing to strike the Empire while it was weak. The Emperor stood at the window of his palace that night, staring at the stars. Once those stars had all belonged to him. Now they flickered with doubt. He whispered to himself, "The old order is ending." And deep inside, he knew it was not the humans who destroyed it. It was fear. Fear of the impossible. Fear that the universe itself had changed. The Empire was breaking, and when it finally fell, nothing would rise to replace it. Nothing, except humanity. They were rewriting existence itself. The final horror, the Emperor gave his last command. "Gather everything we have, every ship, every soldier, every weapon. This will be our final strike." It was not a decision of hope, but of pride. The Empire would not vanish quietly. If it was to fall, it would fall with fire. The great fleets launched, stretching across the stars, more than 10,000 warships shining like a wall of light. Worlds emptied their shipyards. Factories ran day and night. Even broken fleets were welded back together. The largest armada in history now drifted toward human space. The message was clear. Either humanity would bow, or both sides would burn. On the flagship bridge, Admiral Serac stood once more. He had begged to be spared, begged to be left behind, but duty chained him to the front. His heart was heavy, for he knew what was coming. He had seen the impossible with his own eyes, and yet, here he was, marching toward it again. The fleets advanced into the black. At first silence, no human ships, no signals, no resistance. For a moment hope flickered, perhaps the humans had fled, but then the stars began to vanish. One by one, suns dimmed, swallowed by shadows. The crews screamed as their sensors failed. And then, out of the darkness, they saw them, human ships, colossal, larger than anything the galaxy had ever known. Not hundreds, not thousands, but more than the eye could count. They stretched across the void, blocking the stars themselves. Some were shaped like blades, others like towers. Some drifted like cities in the sky. Each ship radiated power beyond reason, their surfaces glowing with impossible light. Admiral Serac fell to his knees, whispering, "They are not ships. They are worlds." The Imperial fleets fired first, all weapons unleashed at once. The void exploded with fire, beams, missiles, every weapon known to the galaxy. But the human armada did not move. Their ships swallowed the attacks like drops of rain falling into an endless ocean. Then came the answer. Not fire, not sound, but silence. The human ships pulsed once, just once, and the Imperial armada collapsed. Warships shattered without a trace. Fleets folded in on themselves. Entire sectors of space cracked like glass. The Empire's greatest power died in a single heartbeat. And in that silence, every soldier, every counselor, every citizen who watched knew the Empire was no more. The Emperor himself stood at his palace window. He saw the reports flashing in red, fleet after fleet gone. His golden eyes closed slowly. At last he whispered, "We were never their equal. We were never their enemy. We were only witnesses." Across the galaxy, worlds trembled. Some dropped their banners of the Empire, raising white flags. Some swore loyalty to humanity at once, hoping to be spared. Others simply fell silent, choosing surrender over death, and humanity, calm and patient, did not conquer. They did not demand tribute. Their ships drifted like silent gods, watching, waiting. They had no need for thrones. They had already become something greater. Admiral Serac, broken but alive, sent his final message to the Council. "They are not here to rule. They are here to remind us. The impossible belongs to them, and we can only bow before it." The galaxy would never forget. The day the Empire launched its last strike. The day the stars went dark. The day humanity revealed the final horror. And in the silence that followed, every race understood one truth. The age of the Empire was over. The age of the impossible had begun and humanity was its master.